This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. Learn more online or subscribe at beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. Welcome to the Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast. I'm your host, co-founder, editorial director of Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine, Jamie Bogner. This is episode number 228. We are once again coming to you from Belgium. Once again, Joe Steng is co-hosting with me. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
And joining us today on the podcast are Paula and Val from Atrium or Atrium Brewing, depending on which country you're pronouncing this from, down in Marche-en-Famenne, Belgium. Welcome to the podcast, Paula and Val.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to be here.
As we were planning this trip, we were looking for, certainly tapping into those brewing traditional Belgian beers and also, of course, lambic and sour acidic forward beers. But then we saw that you all had won this medal multiple times now for your saison, while at the same time brewing hazy IPAs, fruited sour beers, barrel-aged stouts, using all sorts of interesting multi-country, across the ocean influences, pulling them all together in a way that is both progressive as well as respecting tradition at the same time, and thought that it would be fun to dive into your backgrounds on brewing and understand how you are pulling all of these things together in a country that is very much about traditional beer styles. And so here we are. We're going to talk about that, and the diverse backgrounds and how you've brought that together into brewing and how you make both fantastic, beautiful traditional Belgian styles and also beers that push the envelope on that. Before we do that, what if you could chill your beer with a more efficient chiller? The answer: G&D Chiller's new micro-channel condensers. G&D's micro-channel condensers are highly efficient in hotter regions, use a fraction of the refrigerant over traditional chillers, which provides less opportunity for leaks, along with lower global warming potential. G&D Chiller's engineers are committed to green technology design while developing a more energy-efficient chiller for the brewing industry. Contact G&D Chillers today at gdchillers.com. Also, support for this episode comes from Hop Solutions by BSG. The Hop Solutions portfolio is a joint effort between the brewers, hop specialists, and brewing scientists of BSG and the RAR Technical Center that takes a flavor-first, application-specific approach to hops. Whether you're seeking biotransformation in a juicy IPA or dialing in a classic West Coast profile, BSG has a hop solution for that. Get in touch with the hop nerds at BSG by emailing Let's Talk Hops at bsgcraft.com for samples, spots, and contracts. So Paula and Val, let's talk about your beer histories, both separate as you got into beer and then as a couple and brewing together and then getting into the beer business together here in Belgium.
Okay, so for me, when I was at the university, I studied marketing. And I have some friends who always like to drink beer. And every time we could choose the subject of some work, we always choose beer. So we did a lot of work on beer every time I could. And then one of my friends, when he left the university, he opened an e-commerce. And some years later, he invited me to participate with him. So I was responsible for the marketing. And at that time, I thought it was important to study and became a beer sommelier. And so I studied for beer sommelier. And then 1 year later, I think he sold the business. And I was looking for another business. And I was hired to be marketing and commercial at this large importer, who was importing 6 Point in Brazil at the time. And Itachino from Japan, and some Belgian beers like Cantillon, Driefonteinen, Stroos, Phantom, a lot of good Belgian beers.
Not bad, not a bad list. Right?
No, not at all. So I was in heaven working there. And it was super nice. And after that, I was invited to do a TV show. So there was a reality game show about home brewing.
Really?
So yeah, and it was the first TV show transmitted in the whole country. in the paid TV, but for the whole country. So it was a huge step. I had to live 3 months in Rio to be able to do that TV show. This was 2015, sorry. And then I changed job and I was...
So you are a reality TV star in Brazil also.
Yeah, kind of.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it was really nice because it's still on air.
Huh.
So until today, I receive messages, hey, I started bringing my own beer thanks to your TV show. So
it's amazing.
It's really nice. It's really nice. And then I worked as a beer ambassador for a Brazilian brewery who is in the south, Way Beer, and I was representing them in São Paulo. And what else? And when I was working at L'Orge, one day, this Belgian guy calls and, he was looking for a job. And since I was selling Belgian beers, a Belgian guy to sell Belgian beers, it was amazing. So I interviewed him and he passed the interview and he became a co-worker with me. And that's how then we started dating, but also working. We had a lot of, we were always, since the first minute we met, we are working together.
I was just looking for a job. And I ended up with a brewery, a wife, a kid.
A dog.
And a dog.
And I was only looking for a commercial. But that's my path. And then in Belgium, then Val's going to explain his path. And then when we moved to Belgium was 2016. And then I had to learn French at first, so I didn't speak French. And then we did 2 years of a microbrewing course because that was my idea. We're going to live in Belgium for 2 years, and then we'll go back to Brazil because everything was working great for me in Brazil. I couldn't just leave the moment there, the wave as it was. So I was afraid to come live in Belgium, but at the same time, it's Belgium, so it's amazing. Sure. How can I not want to go into Belgium? So also we did a traveling group of beer tourism in Belgium, and this was my first time in Belgium in 2015, like that. And then we did 2 years course, and we were living here in the Brewer Street, so Rue de Brasseurs, and we told each other our dream was to have a brewery in Brazil with the tap room and everything. But we said, why not do here? Because we love this town. It's a small 17,000 people living here only, but it touches 100,000 people around who come to buy stuff here. So it's a small city, but with a big city vibe sometimes, not always. And then we said, why not? So we went to the city center and we said, look, we were thinking about opening a brewery in here, and they loved the idea. They said, look, by the side of where we live, you have 300 square meters open space available. And we said, why not? Then we went to the mayor and we told the idea, and he said, I always wanted to have a brewery there in that street, so why not? So everyone was excited. It's like
the universe wants it. It's Brewer Street, Brasseurs Street.
Exactly,
and it needs a brewery on it.
Yeah. And so everything worked. And that was great. So we did the course. I also at the same time, I was working at a brewery, and by the time we present the idea for the government investments, and they said, yeah, it's a great idea. We were also planning to give some courses, home brewing courses, and they loved the idea. So that's how all started here.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Val, talk to us about your background and history.
Yes, so I started with beer in 2004 in Australia, in Brisbane. I was managing the Belgian beer cafe in Brisbane, and then I stayed there I first paid my studies while studying there as a waiter. Then when I finished my study, they offered me the management of that bar. And it was mainly InBev beer, but we could import like some other stuff as well. And it was a great introduction into the beer world. Then 7 years later, I moved to Brazil. But first, I wasn't speaking Portuguese, so I did some other stuff. And 3 years later, as Paula said, got back in São Paulo and was looking for to get back into the craft beer scene. And obviously I sent my resume to all different importers, especially Belgian beers importers. And after a couple of hours, I received an email saying, you can come and present yourself at the office. And got back into the craft beer scene. And And then after, so as Paula said, we had a small travel. We came with 12 Brazilians here, and I got to know Danny from Phantom, the brewery Phantom, which is like 10 minutes from here. And we got like directly like really, really good friends. Got back to Brazil, and the importer started, to decrease. He had like only a couple of beers to sell, and it was going a bit off. And it was after 12 years traveling, I was a bit tired to start again. It was like financial crisis as well, political crisis. And I wanted to come back and got into like the production, like we started as well, like home brewing as well, Paula and I, and I really wanted to get into production. And then talking with Danny, he said, look, if someday you want to come back to Belgium, we can work together. And say, yeah. So we talked with Paula, and we decided it was a good stuff to come back here. And there was a brewing course as well of 2 years, which are really cheap. And so we said, okay, let's try it. And at first it was 2 years here, and then going back to Brazil to open our breweries. So as Paula said, we really loved the town and the vibe, and started, to everything was flowing well. So let's do it here. And then after Phantom, I worked as well for Être Gourmet, which is like
sure.
Yeah, I worked a lot part-time for those guys as well.
They do a lot of overseas beer shipping from Brussels.
Yeah. Those guys are pretty big in the US, huh? They're pretty big in the US.
That's a big way for American beer fanatics to get Belgian beer shipped from Belgium there. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are big, yeah. And then it's good for me because I could know all the Belgian beer scene as well, all the shops, the distributors, wholesalers, and everything. So I had the good contacts already before starting our brewery. And then I worked for another brewery as well, which is Brasserie du Clocher, and it used to do only one beer like at this time. And it was good for me because coming from Phantom, from all different kind of beers and different ingredients, and like some wild stuff, and coming back as well to like a brewery that was only like doing one beer. So I had really to get to know how to get constants in the beer. So it was like really good, like opposite side of brewing experience. That was really interesting. And then at one point we said, okay, let's open our own, because I think now we have everything we can do to start our own brewery.
Let's talk about as you were starting that, how do you develop a creative idea for it? Because you move into, there's plenty of breweries in Belgium. It's a competitive market. There's also, even though it has a reputation for a population that loves beer, they also have a very specific idea of what beer is. And you all are working to grow that. Before we talk about that, supply chain challenges are here to stay for a while. So why not trust the experts to handle freight for your ingredients? Old Orchard has partnered with a leading logistics firm in the craft beverage industry to transport your craft concentrate blends. When you order 2 pails or more of concentrate from Old Orchard, you qualify for freight quotes from various carriers and can stay up to date on the status of your shipment. To get started on a freight quote for craft concentrates today, head on over to oldorchard.com/brewer. Also, Brew Monitor from Precision Fermentation is the first real-time comprehensive fermentation monitoring solution. It works with your existing fermentation tanks to track dissolved oxygen, pH, gravity, pressure, temperature, and conductivity in real time from any smartphone, tablet, or PC. Brew Monitor provides detailed insight into your fermentations that helps improve beer consistency, reduce tank time, and increase overall efficiency, saving your brewery time and money. Get started for 30 days risk-free. Visit precisionfermentation.com/brewing. So you get to this point, you find the place you want to open a brewery. You've worked now for 2 breweries, Phantom on one end, and what was the name of the other brewery?
Brasserie du Clocher. A small brewery in Namur.
Okay. And so you followed this disciplined singular style where you're brewing the same thing over and over versus the Phantom style, which is God knows what. Brew something different all the time. And and beautiful beers on both sides. You decide to open your own. And how did you develop a creative idea for this? Because now what you're brewing is certainly a departure from the norm in Belgium. In some ways not.
I think what we do, like before we want to create, like we have, okay, what's the next beer? And then we have an idea, and both of us, we take a week we have a meeting every Monday morning. We take a week just to, think a bit about it and read and, and find some stuff. And then following Monday, we have 20 minutes to say, okay, I found that and I think we could have that. And then we make up the recipe together. And I think coming like Paula from Brazil, and I traveled as well, and we met a lot of different people and culture. And I think everything comes back into our beer. So we like to say we have an international experience that we want to bring back into like a local area, and regional area.
Yeah, it's a local brewery with a cosmopolitan point of view.
Yeah.
So we knew from the beginning, we knew what we love. So we decided some ways to go. So families of brew, like hoppy beers, saison beers, stout and imperial stouts and barrel beers. And we knew we had to break the tradition somehow, because if you only open a new brewery and you start doing traditional style triple, double or blonde beers, it's more of the same. So we knew we didn't want to do that. So when we started, we already started with 6 beers, and there was 1 saison, 1 wheat beer, and 2 hoppy beers, brown beer with pecan nuts, and an imperial stout. So we knew we had to start that way. And now we're still doing that, but always with the creativity brain side that is really heavy for us, because we definitely don't want to do more of the same. So each new beer always has a story, why and how. So we really value this rich developing creativity side for each beer.
You are simultaneously, pushing some definitions and putting your own spin on traditional Belgian styles, but also brewing a saison, in a beautiful style, in an award-winning style. Maybe we should start talking about that first.
I would love to know what that was like to go over to Germany in 2019, and you hadn't been tipped off for anything. I mean, you were just hoping to win something, right?
No, we had an email saying that we won the
we knew.
the gold medal. We had an email, yeah.
Okay, well that would have been a nice moment, but also being there to hear the town called out in the name, and what was that like for you guys? And
it was amazing.
It was
we
great.
were shaking. It was.
It was the first time we went to Nuremberg, and if you have been there, it's first you have like huge thing, like for big breweries, like really big stuff. Everyone is in suits, and then more you go through that fair. At the end, you have like small booth, like friendly, like microbrewery, and
But we were shocked when we arrived.
Yeah. First because it was like,
we said,
what do we do here? What are we doing here? Because it was big,
We were like, we are going to Nuremberg. It's amazing. It's the biggest brewery fair. And then we arrived. And we were like, "What are you doing here? It's not for us. It's too big."
When we went to the show, and so we knew we were supposed to get the award. And first it was all like suits guys and big stuff, and then more and more like craftier, and it was like great. And we were like with other American brewery as well, with doing saison.
Italians, a lot of Italians
as well. So it was like a really great, and obviously a t-shirt and jeans and normal,
But I'm very emotional. So to receive an award in Germany for a Brazilian living in Belgium, and I wanted to cry and laugh at the same time, because it's a really high emotional.
And it was our first year.
Yeah.
So the first year we got we got that, and then at the end of beginning 2020 we received we were like the 5th best brewery in the world by Red Beer, and then best new brewery in Belgium, and then we received like an award as well from like a Flemish organization, best new brewery in Belgium. So we got like it was a great first year.
And to get that for the one also, because there's a story behind that beer too, right? I mean, that's kind of a special one for you guys.
Yeah, the one it's the first beer we ever brewed together in Brazil when we were home brewers. And it was the first beer we brewed here in Belgium. So as we told you, we lived here 2 houses away from where the brewery is now. We used to live there. And that was the first beer we brewed there. It's the beer we brewed for our wedding. So, but for the wedding, it was 10% alcohol, and which was amazing for the party. And it was the first beer we brewed here in the big kettles also. So it's always our first. That's why it's called the one, because it was our first beer.
That's the one we sell the most as well.
Yeah.
So,
Let's talk about how you brew it. And I'm curious because, again, it's a, quintessentially Belgian style of beer, but rising above and creating and making a beer that can win an award like that amongst other very well made and very well designed beers means that you both have to adhere to a style expectation, but also create something that stands out and becomes noteworthy or memorable for a judge looking at that kind of thing. From your perspective, let's talk about how you brew it and what you think the small elements are that elevate that beer to be recognized now twice.
Seeing we get we get like most Pilsen, oat, wheat, and we had a bit of specialty malt as well, just for the to get a bit deeper, And
what kind of specialty malt?
It's Vienna, and no, I think it's just Vienna for that one. Yeah, yes, just a little bit, and then we use we don't ferment like high temperature, because Paula and I we're not fan of like phenolic and stuff, so we keep the temperature lower just to avoid those kind of taste in the beer.
Also, the water here, we have a really good source of water. So it's a really soft water, light in minerals. So we don't do anything for that one. For all the other ones, we change a little bit. But this one, we don't do anything. And the idea, which is a little bit controversial, but among the beer styles, the Belgian beer styles, you have a lot of openness. For example, saison styles is a very open style. You can do almost anything. It's almost anything, and it will be a saison. So we were trying to bake the knowledge about everything, and we were the new guys porting our rock to the castle, but we wanted to do in with creativity. But the saison we want to be a little bit more classical. So among our beers, the saison is the more classical one, I think, with our perspective. So as Val was explaining, we don't like the phenolic side, but apart from that and our malt choice, and it's a traditional saison. So it's not so creative. It's a traditional saison, but very, very dry. That's also a secret that we have, that we love the dryness. So it's completely dry. It doesn't have any sugar left.
How are you getting there? Are you doing multi-step mashes to get maximize attenuation, or what's your strategies for getting that dry
No, we
finish?
don't do much. We use another yeast at the end
just to
dry it
finish
out.
up.
HA18.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So it is a secret. Well, not anymore. But this
Not anymore.
you're using
20,000 people.
so it's the glucoamylase enzymes. It's a brute saison. Getting the right, like a brewed IPA, but you're getting the glucoamylase enzyme to bring that down. That's cool.
Yeah.
Neat trick.
How then? In terms that you also are using oats to kind of give it a bigger mouthfeel and a softer feel. That probably helps, even though it is completely dry. Build an idea that it's not just austere or too stark. It still feels comfortable and maybe
Definitely.
a little
creamy,
and creamy, right? Not sweet per se, but feels like it has a more mouthfeel to it that way.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed when I had some was that it also there's bitterness to it, but soft bitterness, and so it doesn't. Even though there's not a phenolic structure, as much of a phenolic structure, there's some. It still feels it doesn't sprawl all over the place. It still feels concise.
Exactly. We wanted to actually, different from the saison, from the triple, we could have a little bit of phenolic, but we wanted the fruit esters first. So it's the fruity side first, and then you can smell a little bit of the phenolic.
It's a good beer.
Well, let's talk about hops. Let's talk about hops a little bit, in the saison. is there anything special to the way you add them or temperatures that you add them at?
No, just boiling and then end of the boil.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Simply, yeah.
What do you think the difference is then, for your saison? If you were really looking at it, how did that beer has now won 2 medals in this kind of difficult competition? If you were to try to dial into some of your process and design, what do you think it was that set it apart?
Love.
I think maybe we're asking about the hops because we also use coriander seeds. So that's also one element to the beer. That's also what gives a hint of sometimes you can think it's hops, but actually it's coriander. Right. And I think this gives this freshness. So it's not just fruity esters and phenolic, but it also has the freshness from the coriander seeds. Yeah. That I think it's very important. The dryness
do you get your coriander from anywhere in specific, or is there a...
No, it's I don't even know where it came from.
No. But
it's a really good.
I have had in-depth.
Yeah. But when you open, we used to use coriander at home as a home brewer. It's completely different. Because when you buy 20 kilos and you open that, it's completely different aroma. So it's a really good one, but we don't know.
But I think what you said earlier as well, the water here, like it's perfect for that beer.
Yeah.
Like it's perfect, and we analyzed everything, just to have, and actually we didn't have, as Paula said, we didn't have to add anything, any minerals to it, because it's just like as it is. It's great. Yeah. It's great, and that's the good spot to be here as well, because we could really like build all over kind of beers, because the water is so light, so clear.
The white page, we can do whatever we want.
Almost a white page. It's great. Yeah.
But I think the saison styles, when you taste, you have a lot of sweet at the end from a lot of other saisons. And for me, the saison style, it really defined by the dryness, because even when you are food pairing, it's amazing to use saisons. Even though we don't see a lot of saison beers in restaurants in Belgium, which is pity, because it's an amazing beer to do food pairing. And I think it's amazing, especially because of the alcohol level, but also the dryness, because this combination is not so frequent. Like this one is 7.2% alcohol and completely dry. And it's not boozy, it's not, you don't taste too much alcohol. It's very even though it's so dry. And I think that's something that I love about it. It's very versatile to pair.
It's interesting because, other saison brewers may get that level of dryness by using, say diastaticus yeasts that'll just rip through and get that. But then you also end up with a particular yeast character that ends up a little more sharp and even more bitter, I think, when you use that kind of thing. It's fascinating to use a glucoamylase-based yeast to get the same kind of feature without some of the negatives to it.
Yeah, I think it's I think your product, because the saison yeast is sometimes a bit, not always easy to work with, because I think everything has to be perfect for him to work very well. We found that, and then I think that one we know when we have to pitch this last yeast, just to have always like the same profile, of that beer. So I think it's great to watch, because like 24 hours, it's almost finished up and it's done, and it's magic. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. As you finish that beer, how far do you carbonate it? And are you just a typical forced carbonation, or?
We are in like a fermentation in bottles. So we force fermentation for the kegs. Obviously, right. we pre-carb the kegs, but for bottles, it's a carbonation in bottles. Yeah, second fermentation.
And in this country, you can split that between bottles and kegs. It's a little harder to do that in the United States, because nobody wants beer in bottles there. But how far do you typically carbonate that beer?
Not too much, 6.5.
What is 6.5?
Grams per liter.
The 3.25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Volumes.
Yeah, volumes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
3.25 volumes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's a very effervescent, very very highly carbonated beer.
Yeah.
I want to ask about the session IPA because you guys mentioned, I think that's maybe your number 2 seller right now.
Yeah.
After the saison. So I think that's really interesting. You have a lot of local people coming in here. A relatively small town. It's a market town. It's in the name, Marche-en-Famenne, market town. But you have some people coming in here who, like you were saying, they just want to triple, or they maybe they know a saison, but then the session IPA is doing well. So there's some people seeking that out. I mean, Belgian drinkers have been getting more interested in hops in the past 20 years, but still triple. So how is that beer doing well? And can you tell us about that beer?
I think people as well just want to drink a bit more, but like quality beers, And before they would get like 2 triple and get drunk, and people I think start to enjoy a bit more their time and just start drinking a bit more, but just like lower alcohol beer. Where before Belgium was only about like strong beers. Duvel, Chimay Blanche, I grew with those ones. Duvel, Chimay Blanche, Chimay Bleu, and now people start to drink a bit less alcohol. Yeah.
That beer was born because we didn't have a session IPA fixed line before. But every time we went to Brussels to visit our clients, every time we were at the bar, we were always looking for something low alcohol and hoppy. And we realized we didn't have that beer in our line. So we said we need something like that and not too bitter, because we had had a session IPA before, but it was too bitter. Not everyone was loved. So we did this one not too bitter and very hoppy on the nose. And I think the alcohol level 4.5 attracts a lot of people, especially when you want to drink during the day here, and during the summer where you have everyone is outside enjoying the sun, and people are looking for a low alcohol beer. So this is one thing that attracts a lot of people. And the name IPA now attracts a lot of people too, especially in the niche, but starting to spread all around. So his family, for example, now they know what an IPA is. And before, 5 years ago, it was not the same. But now you can see the change.
And also, like for the story, so first we wanted to call our brewery Portal Brewery. But we needed a word like in Latin word that could be like said in Portuguese or in French or in English. So portal in English, it was an portail, brasserie portail. It was like not a bit ugly as well. And then we did like we had like a meeting with some friends and throw some ideas, and Atrium came out, and it was exactly so. That's what we wanted. We wanted like a portal. We wanted a brewery where when you come in and it's a whole different world. And you would come into a world and experiment each different beer, which each beer is a travel in itself, So, and then it was the addition that had to be, in our portfolio as well. Actually, we launched that, and it was just a success, because I think it was meant to be, like an easy beer, easy drinking that could, hit a lot of people, like old people, younger people, niche or not, and it's like just an easy drinking beer, And I always tell people, like, this one you can have like a breakfast, you can have a barbecue, you can have a dinner, you can even brush your teeth with that kind of beer. It's easy.
Sure. Let's talk about how you bring your philosophy and mentality of brewing into the IPA space. But before we do that, from the rotatable pickup tube on Rogue Brewing's pilot brew house to the integrated hopbacks on Sierra Nevada's twin prototyping brew houses, SS Brewtech has taken technology they invented working with world-renowned brewing industry veterans and made them available to every craft brewer. To learn more about SS Brewtech's innovation list, head over to ssbrewtech.com. Also, if you're looking for a direct partnership with an independent hop grower who is as fanatical about flavor and quality as you are, join the revolution. Hop Revolution's only reason for being is sustainably farming and processing New Zealand's most flavorsome hops. They get that great beer is not brewed to a past or future ideal. It's an ongoing journey of fresh thinking. Hop Revolution really is only here for your beer. Let them flavor your thinking stateside directly from Hop Revolution or through Crosby Hops or Mill 95. Learn more at hoprevolution.co.nz. Well, let's talk about IPA. We've got some of the session IPA in front of us. It's soft, it's hazy, it has a beautiful fruity nose with some contemporary Pacific Northwest hops character to it, and a little bit of that herbal element in addition to those nice fruity notes. As I was looking this beer up ahead of time, I noticed that it was rated a 3.4 something on Untapped, and I have to say it's incredibly unfair that Untapped raters
Untapped is unfair.
in this country do not rate on the same scale as Untapped raters in other countries.
That's really
they are
like
awfully hard on you all.
And we were invited to Billy's this year. Do you know the event Billy's?
Billy's
Beer Festival.
I've heard of it.
In November.
Run by a great beer cafe in Antwerp, Billy's Beer Cafeteria.
Exactly. It's a huge festival. It's very nice, and we were very happy to be invited this year. And in the invitation, he says, "From experience, I know that the Belgian consumer is the hardest one." And it's very critical because it's a beer country, so and a very vast beer country, so they are very hard on.
They are very hard on your saison was like a 3.6 something average, by other standards in other countries. Yeah, just interesting to see that.
People here they want to drink Imperial Stout 15%. They want to drink 20 gram per liters IPAs and fresh from the next day.
People from the beer geek niche in Belgium. Not everyone, but I think. That's why I think it's important for us to do some competitions because it's blind tested and by experienced professionals. So you can also see how your beer is performing with professionals. That's why I think that's important for us in that way. Also.
Which is more valuable to us than looking at Untapped.
And it also, especially when you find success that way, tells your own audience that's here that maybe they should look at it in a little different way. That maybe it makes them come at it from a different perspective than when they see the external validation that it gets. That's really interesting. Well, let's talk about this because it's simultaneously dry, fruit forward, soft, and a really nice beer.
The session IPA.
Yeah, the session IPA. Talk to me about how you all kind of envision this and then built an IPA program for the brewery here in Belgium.
I think since we started in Brazil, and I think the Brazilian market is very influenced by the American market. So all the American style IPAs arrive in Brazil and it's fever. So from 15, 20 years ago, it's very hard on IPA. So the Brazilian craft beer market is very IPA. And when we moved here, there was not so much IPAs and not so many IPAs the way we love IPAs, as hoppy as we love IPAs. So we needed to do some very hoppy beers, and we put a lot of hops in our beer. So that beer, for example, is very expensive.
Sure.
Because and the price we have to charge here does not pay. So it's one beer that we almost lose money.
What varieties are you putting in there? It's just a lovely, sweet but citrus nose, and then or herbal, as Jamie was pointing out. There's a lot going on.
Citron and Mosaic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's our two favorite hops.
Getting hops, is that a challenge for you in Europe?
No, not here. We have Yakima is big now here.
Yeah,
and we work a lot with those guys, and they've built a facility here, like a big stuff in Louvain-la-Neuve. So I think it's going to be even easier. And actually, we got our hand on the frozen fresh hops for the first time in Europe.
Right.
So you can even try it later on. We still have it on tap. So that was a great stuff for us European, finally to get our hands on fresh frozen hops. So that was so I think we say that
because Europe also has plenty of hops that are grown right here in Europe too.
Yeah, of course,
so it's not like you're bereft of hops.
But we work with like a bit English hops, Slovenian hops, and Belgian hops obviously, and then like 60-70% of American hops as well.
Oh, that's very cool. So let's talk about structuring such a light beer and a dry beer also that doesn't feel. It's dry, but it doesn't feel harsh or thin, or it doesn't drink as a dry beer. it convinces you that it has more sweetness than it has, which is I think partially due to the way that you're building that idea of mouthfeel, but also pushing the fruit flavors and the hops. Talk to me about like building a base out of a grist for this beer.
I think this one, but we love oats, so there's quite a lot of oats as well.
Yeah,
and I think
what kind of oats do you tend to use?
Flaked. Yeah, flaked oats. Yeah.
And golden naked also.
Yeah, and golden naked oats as well.
What kind of percentages do you typically use?
30 to 40.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Low drink time, fun.
Yeah.
But I think the tip to brew a session IPA is to mash high temperature. Like I think that's really like how you get even being like a light alcohol beers, you have a bit of like body to it. I think that's the greatest tip we have on doing those beers.
Yeah.
With a mash temperature, you mean like a higher mash temperature?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
While at the same time building more body with oats.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
What yeast then do you use to ferment the beer?
That's the yeast that we use for all our IPAs. It's a house yeast. It's a IPA, stouts, pale ale. We always use the same yeast.
Yeah. Are you public about what that yeast is?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mix. It's more like Abbey yeast.
Abbey yeast.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Surprising. Yeah, it's a clean profile, but you guys have
it's a clean profile.
You've tamed it with cooler temperatures, and it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's also a very hazy beer. Does that? Do you find? Are there tricks to helping make that haze be stable in the beer, despite its propensity to drop out?
We don't use anything to filter, so it was the main goal to be cloudy. So we also use wheat. And wheat oats. We don't filter. We ferment on bottles, so it's as cloudy as it can be.
Where do you go from the session IPA? What other IPAs find themselves popular in your lineup?
We have the red IPA, which is Avalanche.
That one is very malty.
That's the two only ones. Then we have a pale ale. That's the three OP ones we've got from the core line.
In the core line, It's only the three. Yeah. And the pale ale is not an IPA, it's an pale ale, but it's very American pale ale. So it's also American hops, but very malty. And also you can try now. But it's it's a success. Yeah, and it's called PEM because it's pale ale Marchoise from Marche-en-Famenne. So that's why it's called PEM. So I think people really like that beer here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's pivot then and talk a little bit about barrel-aged beers and beers with fruit, because these are two other areas where you all pull in some past influences and some Brazilian influence and kind of, build that and span these kinds of things. And you do that with, like I said, some fruit, but you also do that with some barrels. One of your more popular barrel-aged beers is, brewed and aged in Amburana wood, which is a Brazilian wood. Let's talk about some of that barrel aging. We're drinking a barrel-aged version of the one saison also right now. Talk to me a little bit about your approach to barrel aging.
Yeah, this one is not saison. It's not the one. It's another saison.
It's another saison.
Yeah, we brewed another type of saison for these barrels. Yeah.
Okay.
And the barrels, from the beginning, we had 3 Brazilian barrels. And Amburana, Jequitibá, and Bálsamo. We have a huge variety of barrels of wood in Brazil. So we use a lot of wood to age cachaça, which is the Brazilian alcohol made of sugarcane. And unfortunately, we don't use much of these barrels to anything else than cachaça. And now we start with the craft beer scene evolving in Brazil. We are using more and more for the beer also. And Amburana is one of the woods that has most success because it gives also sweetness. It's like a sweet wood. So you have sweetness and you have a huge bouquet of flavors coming from the wood. That's really amazing and passionate wood.
So vanilla, roasted coconut.
Yeah, a little bit of
cinnamon.
touch of cinnamon.
Yeah.
Vanilla. So it's amazing, an amazing wood.
Yeah, the flavor contribution from that wood in
It's
the
huge.
beers that I've had. It like from stout to barley wine, anything with a higher alcohol that kind of promotes that extraction
Yeah.
from the wood is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Just last week, I know that Against the Grain won for Amburana 70K. A few years ago, won a gold medal at GABF. I just drank one of those 2 weeks ago. It was absolutely fantastic. Had a barley wine aged in Amburana.
It's so strong that when the truck arrived to deliver the barrels and the tables and chairs, he opened the truck and you could smell the Amburana.
Yeah.
As it was so strong. And to give you
Is that
an
what
idea,
these chairs that we're sitting in are made of?
No, that would be so expensive.
Yeah.
That would smell really good, but it would be expensive. But the Amburana one is so strong that we put 150 liters only, and we blend each time, just in a small amount. Otherwise, it's too strong. So the challenge is to find the right amount to blend because it's so strong.
When you're aging in Amburana, you have barrels made of Amburana wood.
Exactly, yeah.
And you're saying you can only use so much of that. It can't make up an entire batch of the beer. You're only then blending
of course,
part of that barrel stock into.
Yeah, exactly. If you try the beer directly from the barrel, it's not good.
Too much.
Because it's too strong. Yeah.
I think the first batch we made, we had the Amburana barrel for like 2 months, and it was already like really strong. And we had to blend it like 4%. And then, so we added some more, obviously. And 4 months later, we did another batch. And we had to blend it like 2%. It's like really, really strong. And you can really like drink the beer in itself, because it's too strong. It's too strong.
Even just after 2 months in the barrel.
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah, it got really, yeah. But the first, because we first started, so we bought like a 150 liters barrel. So it was pretty small. So it infused like a lot,
It's
but
extra woody because it's that small and there's that much contact.
Yeah,
sure.
I know we've ordered like a bigger one.
Yeah. And the roastiness also.
Yeah.
Because it's medium high roasted. So I think that gives also an extra layer of flavor.
Yeah.
And the coconut smell is more like dry burnt coconut smell, which is lovely. And it comes from the type of roastiness it had. So.
Same thing with the vanilla. So we made our own extract here. And for the onyx, we add vanilla for the imperial stout. But then with the Amburana, we almost don't have to add any vanilla because it's already so much present, with the wood. So it's a really great wood.
So each time we produce onyx and Amburana, we try ourselves and we do a lot of tests to see which level
Blends.
of vanilla and Amburana we're going to blend. And that's also challenging because it's an 11% beer, and sometimes we are here at the end of the day. Tomorrow I have to bottle Amburana and we have to try everything now. So it's true.
It happened one time we had to go back home and do the calculation the next day. We couldn't do just like a...
we tried too much and then we couldn't do the math. But it's a pleasure.
Where do you source Amburana barrels from?
From Brazil.
From Brazil.
Directly from Brazil.
Yeah, it's cachaça producer also. He produces cachaça, and it's a really good cachaça, and he produces a lot of different barrels from the north of Minas Gerais, one Brazilian state.
I know a lot of American brewers that are brewing with Amburana wood are just not putting it into barrels made of Amburana, but are aging it onto the chips or cubes or something else like that.
That's harder, I think.
You think?
Because the chips, how it was roasted, you never know. And then which side of the cube was roasted? Maybe one side, but not everything. So you also have the herbal harshness from the wood. That's not always delicious.
Right. I guess you have the potential for end grain and a different kind of
flavors. Yeah.
Piece of the wood that's exposed to liquid rather than that kind of edge or side. Yeah. Interesting. Have you tried doing it that way? No, it's just not your thing.
Yeah. No, we were very happy with the barrels as they are. Yeah.
Are there other barrels that you enjoy using that?
Yeah, we got our hand on the Côte de Nuit, the saison we're drinking now. Now we're getting our hand on some Pommard, French wine too. We have some Heaven Hill. We had like a 12 no, 18 different bourbon barrels. We have Evan Hill, I forgot the name, Brown Foreman as well, and we could like, and then we have some Panama rum barrel. Yeah. We have some for the
Beaujolais.
Some Bourgogne as well. Yeah, so a bit everywhere we can put our hands on.
And Brazilian wood, we also have Jequitibá and Bálsamo. Balsam is also a very flavorful wood, which is used to make perfumes, actually. But it's not so strong as Ambrana, so the blend is not, it's very hard to make because it's much less strong. So we're going to do another thing with that one. And we have some new ones coming. And for example, we have Kumaru. Don't know if you heard about it.
No.
Kumaru is the tree that makes the Kumaru seeds, the tonka beans. Mm-hmm. Tonka bean is what we call Kumaru seeds. It's from this tree called Kumaru. We had a beer with tonka beans.
Quite stout.
But we don't have it anymore, I think. But it's very nice with Kumaru seeds, and then with tonka beans. Sorry, and tonka beans is not allowed in the US, right? You cannot use tonka beans.
I am not familiar with that.
Really? Here also. Oh,
please did that.
but we discovered that after.
I don't want to talk about that.
When we were brewing that beer, I researched a lot. So I saw that in the United States it's not allowed to use because it's toxic if we use a lot. So you cannot. Yeah. But in France, for example, the very good restaurants use it instead of vanilla. So they like muscat.
Nutmeg.
Thank you.
Yeah, gotcha.
You use it like that. It's a long, dark
it
thing,
smells
and
so
you
good.
use
And
this.
we got that
it's
in
really,
Brazil
really
as
good.
Well. It smells so good.
Black stuff, and you can do like a creme brulee with that, for example. It's really nice. So we brought a lot from Brazil, and then when we blend here and we tried, we saw actually we could brought 1 kilo, and it would be enough to do
really
a lot.
Strong.
But we brought 6 kilos, and we don't have anything to do with it.
That's really nice. That we did a Tonka barley wine. Yeah. And aged in Panama rum barrels. It's amazing. Great beer. Yeah, great beer.
As you're envisioning this, something like a barrel-aged saison, do you adjust the recipe knowing that it's going to spend time in a barrel? And then for something like this on the lighter blonde side, that's goal is to go into a barrel. Are there any other concerns on the brewing side, and then how long do you tend to
we don't change the recipe. We really want to know like what that barrel will bring to that existing beer.
Yeah, but he's
or if we do like another beer, that's different. But we don't change like if we would age from the Onyx, the Imperial Stout, it's the Imperial Stout that's going in. We won't change the recipe to barrel it.
Yeah, but this one is not the one. This one is another saison that we made, and that one we use a little bit of more crystal malts. To have a little bit of a malty backbone also, and not too dry. So we didn't use the HA18 as we use in the saison also. So we needed a base, a little bit more solid base to the barrel.
Sure. And it does pull out the wine character from that barrel in a very attractive way.
Usually we keep like minimum 6 months. We don't touch it for 6 months. And then we start, slowly and to taste it, to see where we're going,
Sure. Yeah, sure. Are there any other, let's talk about fruits a little bit, because you also try to pull in Brazilian fruit and that kind of, and that fruit character is something, it's a bit of a through line through a lot of the flavor in your beers. Even your Belgian style beers still pull on ideas of fruit flavor, as Belgian yeast fermentation also produces those flavors in addition to fruit themselves. And as you decrease bitterness and push some of those flavors, that becomes something you focus on. But with fruit beers themselves, you often go back to your Brazilian background and pull Brazilian fruits together into your beers.
Yeah, we love Brazilian fruits, and also there's a lot of Brazilian fruits that we don't find in Europe. So it's very, very nice to bring some of that fruit here. For example, guava. No one knows guava here. So when we brought guava, it was Brazilian guava brought to Poland. And someone came from Poland during the night, and he arrived here in the middle of the night with the small truck, and we discharged the guava here. And it's amazing because it's something completely new to a lot of people. And a lot of people met the fruit through the beer, not the other way around,
Right.
which is very interesting. So I had to show pictures. Look, this is guava. But we love. So we did one with pineapple, passion fruit, guava, mango, but we
Guava and strawberry.
guava and strawberry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always puree. Always fruit puree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why puree?
Easier to get,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, just easier to get, easier to use. That's yeah.
And it's frozen, so it's the easiest frozen kind of fruit to find here.
Yeah. Yeah. And that freezing process also tends to help it be ready to release its fabulous flavor into the beer itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Are there any specifics or tricks that you use when designing fruit beers?
Each fruit is different, and the challenge is always to know how much of
The
fruit
balance.
before buying. Because when we did the first beer with guava, we had no idea. So we tried a little bit in small amounts, but it's never the same thing. And then we made that beer, and then we learned. But each fruit is a learning process.
Right.
As to know the power of each fruit. Like when we did the one with strawberry, and we knew we had to put more strawberry than we have to put the guava, because strawberry is harder to get all the taste of the fruit. So yeah.
Well, let's zoom out here. As we normally end the podcast, we talk about the big picture for you. You've launched this brewery. You've been open for about 3 years now here in Marche-en-Famenne. Your beer is getting out there more in specialty shops. You hit 1,000 hectoliters, this year. And you've hit a certain scale, and you're hoping to continue to grow by finding this niche with some progressive beer styles, but also with a classic saison that has now won twice. What is next, and what is the big picture goal for Atrium?
What's next? I think is more the developing our barrel aging program. I think that's and then couple of years to move facility and to get a bigger place with a canning line.
You'll convince Belgian consumers to buy beer in cans.
Yeah. So I think that's the
working
the
more
plan.
with barrels. I think developing our sour beer styles, because we always have a lot of ideas, and then we decide. But during the year, it's hard to plan everything that you're going to release as far as the year goes by. So this year we said, no, we're going to look a little bit more to the sour. We have to make attention to that, because if we let our imagination fly free, we are only going to do imperial stouts and quad stouts, and that's our passion. But sour beers also are our passion, and we don't work too much. So we definitely gonna work a little bit more that, and in sour and barrel beers. And now we have a little bit more space, so all the barrels are there, and we are improving our collection of barrels.
Before we sat down to record, you started to say something about doing something to change the stereotypes around beer and brewing in Belgium, and then I stopped you and said, "Wait, save it for the podcast." I don't remember where you're going with that. I would love to know if you want to revisit that and let us know, what do you mean by that, and how does that fit into what Atrium is doing here?
I think when you learn about beer and you learn about the Belgian school of beer, you learn that it's completely different from the German, from the English schools of beer, because it's much more vast and creative. You have sour, you have triple, and everything. And a lot of flavors go there. So I expected, when I moved to Belgium, to see a more open market. But actually, it's very traditional, on its own craziness from the beginning. It's still very traditional.
Especially where we live in the south of Belgium.
Yeah. So people know a lot. An average person in Belgium knows a lot more styles of beer than an average person in Brazil that's not a beer geek on both countries. An average beer person in Brazil knows a Pils. and which is actually an American light lager in most of the cases. But here, no, the person knows already a lot of styles. But when we started, we said we don't want to do only the Belgian classics. We want to be even more creative. And how is that going to perform in Belgium? So we always wanted to break the paradigm of the market. So we are in Belgium, but we are doing American style IPAs. We are doing Brazilian style sour beer, for example, or English imperial barley wine and Imperial Stout. So we are here, but trying to put our creativity in the Belgian beer market, and that's very a lot of contrasts in there, because not everyone was expecting that. And here you don't touch only the beer geek; you touch much more of average people being here. So that's
I think Belgium, the Belgian brewing scene is like the French wine scene 10-15 years ago. So 10-15 years ago here in Belgium, you could find only like French wine, most of it in supermarkets. And now when you go there, a lot of like in other countries' wine. And I think the French guys say, look, we make wine and we know how we make it, and that's the way it does. But at the same time, like other countries were just like in their corner, just like, going up and learning a lot and doing a lot of stuff. And I think Belgium is a bit like that as well. So like we are Belgian, and we make the beers and we know how to make it. And the best beer is in Belgium. But in the meantime, Americans, English, and Russian everywhere, like started exploding. But we stayed in a little thing. No, Belgium, we made the best beer and triple and blonde and brune. And actually at one point we woke up saying, what's going on? There's a lot of the beers. And, the American, they make all the beer we make here, they make them as well. And so you guys are you guys really passionate, you have passionate people who want to learn and everything. And actually you have better school, like brewing school in the US than we have in Belgium, So I think that's what happened. And now if you see the new wave is now, whereas the new wave in the US or in England, it was like a few years back.
Right, sure.
I think it's the same thing, and we are really traditional. And that's as well what we wanted. Like here in where we live, there's not much. No, there is Brasserie Mine, which is close by, and there is not many like breweries doing like a bit of all kind of beers. There is more in Brussels, more in Flanders, but here where we live, it's really, really traditional. And we wanted as well to do a bit like a shoot in the nest, And so when people come here and visit the brewery, we always start that we don't do blonde, we don't do brune. And yeah, so I think that's what we are about. We want, like as I said earlier, we want people to come here and experience new stuff.
Yeah, that's what Val was saying earlier about the name Atrium. Atrium is a hall of entrance in Latin. So the meaning was somewhere where you can go inside and see new stuff. So actually, when you have the ancient atrium halls in the ancient Roman houses, you have a hall of entrance and a lot of doors, and sometimes a window on the ceiling. And here we also have the window on the ceiling, and we have a lot of doors, which are all the different beers that we make, the events, the concerts we make, the tap room, which is not so common in Belgium either. So Atrium is in that meaning of come here and you know something different, and that's our goal. That's what we do, and that's what is so different from the traditionalism still in Belgium, and from the new which we are in the new wave. When we started, sometimes in some small city festivals, when I said I was Brazilian and a brewer, I already listened to, but why? Why you are here? Like almost if it was offensive to be someone from another country brewing here.
And a woman.
So why is there a Brazilian woman brewing here if we are in Belgium, which is the best country for beer? So that was a wall that we had to break. And now I don't feel that anymore. I think, for example, last year for the International Women's Day, we made a huge stuff. We talked a lot. This year also we are planning a lot of things to do, but personally, I think I can say that it already changed a little bit. So, and that shows how this new wave is changing the scene now in Belgium. And it's fresh. It's not something from 10 or 15 years ago, as Val said.
The proof is in the beer you make. And from the brewers that we've already talked to this week, everyone who's had your beer has said the same thing. They make very good beer. It's very technically, very well constructed beer and creative at the same time. And it's bringing something new to the conversation in this area. And that's a hard thing to do with such an established beer community. On that note, for nearly 30 years, G&D Chillers has set the mark for quality equipment you can rely on. Hop Solutions by BSG takes a flavor-first, application-specific approach to hops. Trust the experts at Old Orchard to handle freight for your ingredients. Get detailed insight into your fermentations with Brew Monitor risk-free. Put SS Brewtech's advances to work in your brew house, and try New Zealand's most flavorful, sustainably farmed hops from Hop Revolution. If you enjoy the podcast, go to beerandbrewing.com and click on the subscribe button. Paula and Val, if people want to learn more about Atrium, where do they find you all?
On Instagram, Facebook, and our website.
What's the address?
Brasserie. I have to say
BRASSERIEATRIUM.be. And then on Instagram, BRASSERIE.atrium, ATRIUM.
Fantastic. Well, we really appreciate you all taking time and talking with us about the way you brew. Cheers.
Thank you very much. It's
Thanks,
very
guys.
nice.
Cheers.
This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. Learn more online or subscribe at beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew.